Hey, it's Hannah. Sorry for the late video, and sorry that it's another Twilight one right away. I moved. I'm 20 hours away from where I was in the last video. I don't have a desk yet. I'm acclimating to being several thousand feet higher in altitude. So yeah, brain still broke, so we're doing more Twilight. Also, I just realized last video we edited about 5 pages of the first chapter. There are 30 pages in the first chapter. This book is 1,000 years long. But we are up to the challenge. If you missed the last video, I'm literally just editing Twilight. That's it. That's the video. Last time I got a lot of angry messages. I don't think Twilight's a bad book. I think Twilight needed an editor and fewer pedophilic themes. But so does Vampire Diaries and Buffy. As far as hundreds of year-old vampires being attracted to 15-year-old girls, Twilight's not the worst. I don't know why I'm giving you guys an explanation like it's gonna stop people from sending me angry messages, but oh well. Okay, we left off. Wow, Dad, I love it, thanks. Maybe my first day of school would be a little less dreadful. I wouldn't be faced with the choice of either walking 2 miles. Oh, I don't know why I thought the scene ended there. Walking 2 miles in the rain to school or accepting a ride in the Chief's cruiser. I'm glad you like it, Charlie said gruffly, embarrassed again. It only took one trip to get all my stuff upstairs. I don't know if it's because I expected it to be a scene break, but I'd like a scene break there. It took only... This is a writer quirk she has, or maybe it's a writer quirk I have, where I only took one trip. I took only, or it took only... It feels oddly formal to me, but it might be because I'm pretty sure Stephenie Meyer's from Utah. Maybe it's a regional thing. I don't know, but anyway. It only took one trip to get all my stuff upstairs. I got the west bedroom that faced out over the front yard. Why not just that faced the front yard? Or I got the west bedroom, comma, facing the front yard. The room was familiar, semicolon. It had belonged to me since I was born. What does that mean? The room was familiar. It had belonged to me since I was born. I'm just gonna... Since we get an explanation of the room, and then she says these were all a part of my childhood, I don't think we need those sentences. There's a butterfly. Hey, buddy. The wooden floor, the light blue walls, the peaked ceiling, the yellowed lace curtains around the window. These were all a part of my childhood. I think I'm going to take this out as well, just my childhood. The only changes Charlie had ever made were switching the crib for a bed and adding a desk as I grew. What about had made? The only changes Charlie had made were switching the crib for a bed and adding a desk as I grew. The desk now held a second-hand computer with the phone line for the modem stapled along the floor to the nearest phone jack. This was a stipulation from my mother so that we could stay in touch easily. The rocking chair from my baby days was still in the corner. There was only one small bathroom at the top of the stairs, which I would have to share with Charlie. I was trying not to dwell too much on that fact. One of the best things about Charlie is he doesn't hover. He left me alone to unpack and get settled, a feat that would have been altogether impossible for my mother. It was nice to be alone, not to have to smile and look pleased, a relief to stare dejectedly out the window at the shooting rain and let a few tears escape. I wasn't in the mood to go on a real crying jag. I would save that for bedtime when I would have to think about the coming morning. I mean, that's a little heavy-handed and melodramatic, but also it's from the perspective of a teenager, so I'll allow it. Forks High School had a frightening total of only 357, now 58 students. There were more than 7... Why are there so many semicolons and M dashes? I love M dashes. This is a lot. Why don't we just end a sentence? Forks High School had a frightening total of 3... I'm going to take out only because we have frightening and it's just a lot of modifiers. 357, now 58 students. I'm gonna put parentheses just to take out some of those M dashes. And we're just gonna end that sentence and start a new one. It's not that hard. There were more than 700 people in my junior class alone back home. All of the kids here had grown up together. Their grandparents had been toddlers together. To get rid of the repetition of together, I'm just gonna put with each other. They grew up with each other. There's probably a better way to phrase that, but I just do not like the repetition. I would be the new girl from the big city, a curiosity, a freak. Maybe if I looked like a girl from Phoenix I could work this to my advantage, but physically I'd never fit in anywhere. Ooh, we're gonna get a little physical description. Can't wait. I should be tan, sporty, blonde. Without an E is masculine, right? I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be an E. A volleyball player or cheerleader, perhaps. We don't need that comma. I'm going to take out perhaps and that comma. All the things that go with living in the Valley of the Sun. I'm going to take that out. Instead, I was ivory-skinned without even the excuse of blue eyes or red hair despite the constant sunshine. I had always been slender but soft somehow, obviously not an athlete. Semicolon. Period. I didn't have the necessary hand-eye coordination to play sports without humiliating myself and harming both myself and anyone else who stood too close. We have another repetition of myself. This is something that makes me feel like it didn't have an editor. About humiliation. Which, like, maybe the first book was cheaper to produce? I don't know. I feel like after they knew these were going to be popular, they could have done another edition. But whatever. When I finished putting my clothes in the old pine dresser. Okay, see, when I finished putting, that's just weak phrasing. It's amateur. So it's not technically bad. There's just so much room for improvement really easily. When I finished putting my clothes in the old pine dresser, I took my bag of bathroom necessities and went to the communal bathroom. Bathroom. This is the easiest shit to spot. I just don't like the word pudding, so what about, like, when my clothes were folded in the old pine dresser, I took my bag of bathroom necessities. We could put, I took my bathroom bag, or I took my toiletries bag. Went is also a weak verb. We just say, I took my toiletries bag to the communal bathroom. I looked at my face in the mirror as I brushed through my tangled damp hair. Maybe it was the light, but already I looked. That's another thing, or just like, I already looked. I already looked sallower, unhealthy. My skin could be pretty. It was very clear, almost translucent looking, but it all depended on color. I had no color here. Facing my pallid reflection in the mirror, I was forced to admit that I was lying to myself. It wasn't just physically that I'd never fit in, and if I couldn't find a niche in a school with 3,000 people, what were my chances here? I think we can take this line out. I didn't relate well to people my age. Maybe the truth was that I didn't relate well to people, period. Even my mother, who I was never closer to than anyone else on the planet, was never in harmony with me, never on exactly the same page. Sometimes I wondered if I was seeing the same things through my eyes that the rest of the world was seeing through theirs. Maybe there's a glitch in my brain, but the cause didn't matter. All that mattered was the effect, and tomorrow would be just the beginning. I didn't sleep well that night, even after I was done crying. The constant whooshing of the rain and wind across the roof wouldn't fade into the background. I pulled the faded old quilt over my head and later added the pillow too, but I couldn't fall asleep until after midnight when the rain finally settled into a quieter drizzle. This is all very mopey and boring, but I think Bella's mopey and boring, so that's fine. Thick fog was all I could see out my window in the morning, and I could feel the claustrophobia creeping up on me. They only put creeping up or creeping in. You could never see the sky here. It was like a cage. I take out that semicolon. Breakfast with Charlie was a quiet event. He wished me good luck. I say wished me luck. At school, I thanked him, knowing his hope was wasted. Good luck tended to avoid me. Charlie left first, off to the police station. That was his wife and family. I don't think we need to be that direct. We have the repetition of left again. So we already know that he left, so we can just have her sitting. I sat at the old square oak table. We get old a lot. So far for me, the description of the house doesn't do a lot for it or for her. I feel like she's just describing a house, which is fine, but when you're describing a scene, especially with a character introduction, you want to include things that are going to tell us something about the world or tell us something about the character, and she keeps calling everything old, which I guess is like, this is my childhood home, my dad is not very modern. So like, we get that. We can learn something else now. I sat at the square oak table in one of the 3 unmatched chairs and examined his small kitchen with its dark paneled walls, bright yellow cabinets, and white linoleum floor. Nothing was changed. See, that's all we're learning. The house is old, Charlie set in his ways. Nothing was changed. My mother had painted the cabinets 18 years ago in an attempt to bring some sunshine into the house. I like that. Over the small fireplace in the adjoining handkerchief-sized family room was a row of pictures. First, a wedding picture of Charlie and my mom in Las Vegas, then one of the 3 of us in the hospital after I was born, taken by a helpful nurse, followed by the procession of my school pictures up to last year's. Those are embarrassing to look at. I would have to see what I could do to get Charlie to put them somewhere else. at least while I was living here. It was impossible being in this house not to realize that Charlie had never gotten over my mom. Is this how it was printed? Did I get a bad copy? This doesn't read like a sentence. I'm Googling this to see if it comes up as a direct quote. No, that's the sentence. That's the sentence. It was impossible being in this house not to realize that Charlie had never gotten over my mom. Oh! It was impossible not to realize that Charlie had... Okay. What if we just phrase that clearer? We could just say, being in the house, it was impossible not to realize that Charlie had never gotten over my mom. It made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to be too early to school, but I couldn't stay in the house anymore. I think we could... It was impossible not to realize that Charlie had never gotten over my mom. It made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to be too early to school, but I couldn't stay in the house anymore. I donned my jacket, which had the feel of a biohazard suit, and headed out into the rain. Headed into the rain. It was just drizzling still. It was still just drizzling. I don't know if that's regional. Is this just me, or are these sentences weird? Let me know. I know you will. It was still just drizzling, not enough to soak me through immediately as I reached for the house key that was always hidden under the eaves by the... Am I dumb? Can I not read? Not enough to soak me through. What if we just put, it was still just drizzling as I reached for the house key hidden under the eaves by the door and locked up. The sloshing of my new waterproof boots was unnerving. I missed the normal crunch of gravel as I walked. I couldn't pause and admire my truck again as I wanted. I was in a hurry to get out of the misty wet that swirled around my head and clung to my hair under my hood. I'm just gonna take this out because I'm a quitter. Inside the truck, it was nice and dry. Either Billy or Charlie had obviously cleaned it up, but the tan-upholstered seats still smelled faintly of tobacco, gasoline, and peppermint. The engine... Isn't that what the grandpa smelled like in The Parent Trap? Y'all remember The Parent Trap, like the first one? Pipe tobacco. The engine started quickly, to my relief, but loudly, roaring to life and then idling at top volume. Well, a truck this old was bound to have a flaw. These sentences are just some whoppers. They're some big boys. The antique radio worked, a plus that I hadn't expected. Finding the school wasn't difficult. Why didn't she say what she's listening to? I want to know what you're listening to. Finding the school wasn't difficult, though I'd never been there before. The school was, like most other things, just off the highway. It was not obvious that it was a school. Only the sign, which declared it to be the Forks High School, made me stop. And take out the... Take out that fucking semicolon. It looked like a collection of matching houses built with maroon-colored bricks. Again, we don't need to be told that the color is a color. There were so many trees and shrubs I couldn't see its size at first. Where was the feel of the institution, I wondered nostalgically. And take that out. Where were the chain-link fences, the metal detectors? Small town feel. I parked in front of the first building, which had a small sign over the door reading front office. This should be either capitalized or in quotation marks or italicized or something. No one else was parked there, so I was sure it was off limits, but I decided I would get directions inside instead of circling around in the rain like an idiot. What does she need directions for? Didn't she say that it's like a teeny tiny place with 200 people? Like there's probably not that many buildings. I stepped unwillingly out of the toasty truck cab and walked down a little stone path lined with dark hedges. I took a deep breath before opening the door. Inside, it was brightly lit and warmer than I'd hoped. The office was small, semicolon. A little waiting area with padded folding chairs, orange-flecked commercial carpet, notices and awards cluttering the walls, a big clock ticking loudly. Plants grew everywhere in large plastic pots as if there wasn't enough greenery outside. The room was cut in half by a long counter cluttered with wire baskets full of papers and brightly colored flyers taped to its front. There were 3 desks behind the counter, one of which was manned by a large red-haired woman. It was woman wearing glasses. She was wearing rep. Why don't we just put with glasses? She was wearing a purple t-shirt, which immediately made me feel overdressed. The red-haired woman looked up. Can I help you? It's only... We can put she. I'm Isabella Swan, I informed her, and saw the immediate awareness light her eyes. I was expected, a topic of gossip, no doubt. Of course, she said. She dug around a precariously stacked pile of documents on her desk till she found the ones she was looking for. I have your schedule right here and a map of the school. She brought several sheets to the counter. To show row. To show row? To show row. I feel like I don't speak English anymore. To show me. How'd that happen? This is the first time I've looked up something that seemed really weird that was actually incorrect. If anyone has a better bootleg of Twilight, send it to me. She brought several sheets to the counter to show me. She went through my classes for me. I'm going to take out for me. There's so many repetitive words. It's really easy to catch those in your own writing. Literally just read them out loud. She went through my classes, highlighting the best route to each on the map, and gave me a slip to have each teacher sign. I'm going to take out each because each was already said in this sentence. To have teachers sign, which I was to bring back at the end of the day. She smiled at me and hoped, like Charlie, that I would like it here in Forks. I smiled back as convincingly as I could. When I went back out to my truck, I'm going to take out. When I went back to my truck, other students were starting to arrive. I drove around the school, following the line of traffic. How much traffic is there? There are 200 kids. I was glad to see that most of the cars were older like mine, nothing flashy. At home, the commas are also inconsistent, so in fiction, you can pretty much do whatever you want in creative prose with commas. You can use them all the way correctly, or you can use them where they kind of feel right, or where you want the reader to take natural pauses. Especially in dialogue, you got a lot more options. So at home, there should be a comma after that clause, and she has used them at other parts in the book. So I'll just put it here. At home, I lived in one of the few lower-income neighborhoods that were included in the Paradise Valley district. It was a common thing to see a new Mercedes or Porsche in the student lot. The nicest car here was a shiny Volvo, and it stood out. Still, I cut the engine as soon as I was in the spot so that the thunderous volume wouldn't draw attention. To me. I'm going to take out to me. I looked at the map in the truck, trying to memorize it now. Hopefully, I wouldn't have to walk around with it stuck in front of my nose all day. Again, how big is this campus? There are so few students. I stuffed everything in my bag, slung the strap over my shoulder, and sucked in a huge breath. I can do this, I lied to myself feebly. No one was going to bite me. Stephenie. I finally exhaled and stepped out of the truck. I kept my face pulled back into my hood as I walked to the sidewalk, crowded with teenagers. My plain black jacket didn't stand out, I noticed with relief. So this is like kind of a macro edit for voice. I know she's insecure to a certain extent, and that does make people like see themselves in third person instead of observing the world around them, like they're self-conscious and know what's going on with their own body all the time. But she's not supposed to be insecure in that way, from what I can tell. Like, she's super self-sacrificing and always thinking about others and not putting herself first. So she really thinks about herself a lot when we're told that she doesn't. So that's a weird thing in the voice for me. I'm not editing for that. That's just a thought I had. Once I got around the cafeteria, Building 3 was easy to spot. A large black 3 was painted on a white square in the east corner. I felt my breathing gradually creeping toward hyperventilation as I approached the door. I tried holding my breath as I followed 2 unisex raincoats through the door. Okay, we got the door, the word I, which is difficult to avoid in first person. But there are ways to do it, especially with this character who's supposed to be so involved with what other people are doing and not as worried about herself. The classroom was small. The people in front of me stopped just inside the door to hang up their coats on a long row of hooks. I copied them. There were 2 girls, one a porcelain-colored blonde, the other also pale with light brown hair. At least my skin wouldn't be a standout here. Could just say wouldn't stand out here, or wouldn't stand out. A woman passes every day with her baby in a stroller and 2 very big dogs, and COVID makes me sad. I want to go make friends. Okay, let's finish this page and then we're done. The unisex raincoats is weird to me. Like, why can't we just think that they're girls? I don't know. I took the slip up to the teacher, a tall, balding man whose desk had a nameplate identifying him as Mr. Mason. He gawked at me when he saw my name, not an encouraging response, and of course, I flushed tomato red. But at least he sent me to an empty desk at the back without introducing me to the class. It was harder for my new classmates to stare at me in the back, but somehow they managed. I kept my eyes down on the reading list. I'm going to take out down. There's just not a big chance that she's holding it above her head. Kept my eyes on the reading list the teacher had given me. It was fairly basic. Bronte, Shakespeare, Chaucer, Faulkner. I'd already read everything. That was comforting, and boring. There's not supposed to be a space there. I wondered if my mom would send me my folder of old essays or if she would think that was cheating. I went through different arguments with her in my head while the teacher droned on. When the bell rang, a nasal buzzing sound, a gangly boy with... Okay, the nasal buzzing sound is the bell. Can I not read? Is that the problem? Be honest. A gangly boy with skin problems and hair black as an oil slick leaned across the aisle to talk to me. What about just like the nasally buzzing bell? And a gangly boy with skin problems and hair black as an oil slick leaned across the aisle to talk to me. You're Isabella Swan, aren't you? He looked like the overly helpful chess club type. This description makes him sound so skeevy. So is he overly helpful, or is he gonna knife her? Bella, I corrected. Everyone within a 3-seat radius turned to look at me. Well, we got through page 11. I think we're making great progress. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my patrons for sponsoring this video. You guys can expect regular content now that I'm in a house instead of in a truck. I love that for me. My short story collection, Little Birds, is on sale right now. You can get it on Amazon in ebook and paperback. I'm going to check what the sale price is because I have forgotten. But it's also an audiobook and it's on my website and signed paperback. $9.95 on Amazon. My next collection, Starlight, should be available soon for pre-order. I will hit you with some release dates and maybe a cover reveal like pretty soon. I'm excited. Are you excited? See you next week. Bye.